probably haven't been able to hear us because we had those. No, we don't need those. Welcome, guys. Sorry, we had ourselves muted because of the countdown, but welcome. Hope you guys are doing well. Ramika, can you hear us now? That should have cured the thing. When you have your mics muted, it's amazing how the mics don't work.
How you actually can't hear.
But so let us know if you can't hear us still. Hopefully that fixed that problem. But I hope everybody's doing well. It is Veterans Day, so let's say happy Veterans Day. Thank you to all of our veterans. We are so grateful for the freedoms that we have because of the sacrifices of so many. And so just thank you guys for your service, men, women, all branches of service. Just thank you. It's a day definitely to celebrate in that regard. And I've got a couple of things I wanted to bring up. We definitely, are trying to expand this, like I said, on Facebook and YouTube. I said it before the mics were working, so let me say that again. One thing that does change for us is in the old platform, we were able to see everybody's comments coming in. We're even able to see who all is in the chat. Even if you're not chatting right now, unless you say something to us, we're not going to know that you're live. And of course, a lot of you are probably going to see in this on the replay or maybe as it's running just as a video and not actually seeing it live on a Wednesday at 2 o'clock. So welcome, everybody. Turn volume up, please, to soft. All right, we are maxed.
Is it Trey that's soft
we
or
are
I'm
maxed
soft?
out. So we're going to have to be right in our mics, Mel, because I have
Is the volume up on that?
We are maxed out.
Okay.
So we have been working on that. So that's something we've got to figure out. The board is maxed out, and I'm not sure if it's coming through eCam that way. So, Jeffrey, is that any better? If we are right in our mics, let us know, please. And let's see. Hopefully some of you guys are seeing us on Facebook as well. Still haven't heard back there. So, but while we're waiting to hear back from Jeffrey, hopefully he can hear us okay. We do want you to connect with us on social media. We are active on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter primarily, but we'd love to have you guys connect with us there. And, just every week we've got comments going out. We've got quotes. We've got updates on our podcast, all those kind of things. So we'd love to have you connect with us there. Also, if you're not watching this on YouTube, if you're over on Facebook, we do have a growing YouTube channel, and would love to have you connect with us there as well. Subscribe. We're just right at 7,500 subscribers right now. We're trying to grow that, expand it, putting out content every week. So definitely connect with us there on YouTube as well. Another quick announcement. We have our last Undone, Redone, Embark, our Route 1520 men's intensive, Embark Men's Recovery Intensive, coming up this week. So we are full, so definitely covet your prayers for the 12 men who will be coming from all over to Talladega, Alabama. And we also have our dates already set for all of 2021. We'll be doing this 4 times next year as well, starting February the 18th through the 21st will be our next one in 2021. So do connect with us there. Go to undoneredone.com/embark and check that out. We have scholarships available. We have payment plans available. So if money's the only reason that you would not be able to come, give us an opportunity to at least talk through that, and hopefully we'll be able to accommodate you and get you to our next Embark Intensive. It's a deep dive into those root issues driving the unwanted behavior. So, Melody, let's see. Why is that saying live in 3 minutes? It should be. Let me refresh this. Dun, dun, dun. Did I pause it? Maybe I shouldn't be trying to watch that while we're doing this, but it should be live, I would think.
It says live up there.
Yep. But over there can see us. So, guys, give us some feedback if you can hear us and you can see us. Hopefully that everything is working as it should be. Let me refresh that and see if maybe that is working better now. Maybe it froze up. Yep, there we go. Let me pause that now. We're going to get some feedback. All right. We hear and see y'all. Thank you, Erica. Appreciate that. All right, guys. Well, let's get to some questions. I know that's what you guys came for, and this is one of the other things that's a little bit challenging. So one thing, one final announcement, if you do want to get notified, if you're maybe just seeing this on YouTube or seeing this on Facebook, and we're doing this every week, if you want to get in our notification sequence, make sure you're getting reminders, because I know we've all got a lot of things that we would like to tune into, but we just forget. You can go to undoneredone.com/ask, and you can find us there, register, and then you're going to be getting an email update. And also that'll put you on the replay. So every time we send out the replay, you'll make sure you get that as well. I know I sign up for a lot of webinars that I just frankly forget about, or maybe I watch one or two, but then I get busy with other things. That's a way for you to make sure that that's working. And it looks like my chat window has gone away. There it is. Okay. So let's see if the chat is coming in. If it's not, then this is going to be a little hard, but doesn't look like it's coming in correctly. So let's see. All right, looks like then, and Melly, unless you can get on Facebook, if you can look at it on Facebook. Sorry, guys, I thought I had all this figured out, and I've obviously got the wrong feed coming in. The chat should be coming in right here. I can see everybody on YouTube. Some of you have already emailed us questions, so we're going to get to those.
What am I looking for?
But go to Undone Redone, and the live stream should be up there. There it is. Go ahead and mute it, and just the comments. So mute
How do
it.
I mute it?
There we go. All right, so she's going to monitor Facebook. I'm going to monitor YouTube, and we'll get this fixed moving forward. But I guess we can just change our screen back, since we're not going to be able to see that. So, all right, let's get to some questions, guys. I do see a question coming through on YouTube, so we'll get to that one here in just a minute, and do have some that have come in on the email as well. And if you want to email, even while we're here, ask@undoneredone.com. So first question is, I'm really struggling to not find all the reasons why I deserve betrayal, or somehow brought it on myself. We spent so much of our 11 years of marriage with him telling me he should have married someone else, and how much he hates and was honestly deeply hurt by my parents. I know part of it is realizing I grew up codependent on my mom. That absolutely affected our early marriage and compounded his woundedness. Now that has started coming up in conversations between my husband and I feel even more anger with my family upbringing, feeling it is to blame for my husband acting out. How do I keep focused on healing from betrayal trauma without sidetracking or falling down a rabbit hole of past codependency? And I want to go back to the first part of this, Mel, and let you speak to it. I'm struggling to not find all the reasons why I deserve betrayal, or somehow I brought it on myself. Why don't you start with that?
Yeah, I'd love to. These are some great questions. I'd really love to talk a little bit about, well, one, you're mentioning your family history of codependency. We have a learned history from childhood, and how we handle conflict, and how we relate with our parents, and those types of things. And so we bring that into marriage, both parties. And so part of this is figuring things out. I know Trey has talked many times about leaving and cleaving before. And, many times parents can make it very difficult to leave and cleave. Maybe you've got a manipulative mom, or maybe you've got a dad that's really passive. And so you've been used to over-functioning and things like that. And so all these dynamics could really create challenges and tension for you. However, nothing that you are experiencing related to your parents gives your spouse the right to go act out. Nothing. And it's kind of like if somebody hits you on the playground, and then you go hit somebody else. We're all responsible for that. But in this scenario, you can't, you can own part of your codependency with your parents, but that doesn't give your spouse the right to go outside your marriage and act out in any way, shape, or form. So it sounds like he may be trying to blame you for decisions that he has made, instead of taking responsibility. And really, the word that I'm thinking about is the word repentant. Is really not remorse. Remorse is where we feel sorry for what we did, but we don't really make any changes. Repentance is that deep sorrow. I want to turn from what I'm doing. I want to do what it takes to help my wife heal in this, and do the work to not go there again. But, one of the things that I did notice in your question is that you deserve this. Well, nobody deserves to be in a relationship within the context of marriage and have to experience betrayal. So nobody deserves that. And
Well,
so
and
I
I
just
would
want to
say,
validate that.
Shame is a big piece. We talk a lot about shame on our podcast. We've talked about it in past Q&A sessions as well. But I would encourage you, that narrative of I deserve this. Shame is not I made a mistake. It is I am a mistake, and that temptation to kind of internalize and to say this happens because I'm a bad person, or the word even deserve that. I deserve this because I'm a bad person. So I would encourage you, as you're doing your individual work, is to really specifically get in touch with your own shame narrative. What are the lies that you might be believing about your core identity? And sometimes that can be rooted with codependency, can kind of flow out of that because we are looking to someone else to make us feel okay. And that, kind of becomes part of that codependent, I don't know who I am. That certainly was a part of my story. I don't know who I am, so therefore let me get somebody else who can help me feel okay and define me for me. And so that may be just some individual work, because certainly, as Melody said, it's not your fault. You don't deserve this. You deserve to be respected. You deserve to be treated fairly. You certainly didn't bring it on yourself. No doubt we all bring stuff to the relationship. We're all broken, but that does not give someone else the right to do that. And I also just want to say how hurtful that he has told you, not just once, but multiple times, said he should have married someone else.
Yeah,
Now, I don't know if that's someone specifically, like a former girlfriend, that he's verbalizing regrets, which is very hurtful, or just generally, I should have married someone else and not you. But either way, that is very, very hurtful, harmful, painful. And I'm so sorry.
Really, and emotionally, over time can be very emotionally traumatic to you to hear that. So it may be that you need some boundaries for your relationship if you continue to be in a relationship with somebody who, one, doesn't take any kind of responsibility for the decisions that he's made, but also continues to remind you. Again, you can apologize. I'm trying to do my own healing. I'm trying to, part of my healing after Trey's and my betrayal was some of the family dynamics. We definitely layered those things in because we're making decisions and handling conflict by the way we grew up. But again, that doesn't give him an excuse to do whatever he wants to do. So it could be that you're not in a safe environment right now where you can heal from some of the betrayal that you've experienced. And it may be that you have to say, I love you, but you cannot keep saying this. And if you do keep saying this, then I might need to X, Y, Z, whatever that looks like. And, sometimes, separating for a little bit, I'm not saying that you need to separate out of house, but just taking a step back so that you can breathe and not continue to get peppered with, it's your fault and I hate your parents and all this. That's not okay. It almost sounds like it's deflecting from him taking responsibility of the things that he needs to take responsibility for. So I'm really, really sorry. I know this has been incredibly hurtful. My hope would be that you can, like I said, create some safety and some boundaries for yourself, and maybe even a non-negotiable. When you say this and you know that this continues to be hurtful, then then you figure out what that is.
Well, and I would even speak to, it sounds like there was some things that both of you agree that was inappropriate that your parents did. You didn't spell that out, but it sounds like there's some legitimate things that he has a right to be upset with your parents. But having said that, you then feeling, well, if that didn't happen, then he wouldn't have betrayed me. That's incorrect thinking. Because Melody used the playground.
It's incorrect thinking for him too.
Well, no, for all of you.
Okay.
It's just for everybody involved, because again, we all come into our relationships with some type of wound, and wounded people wound others, but still we have to take responsibility for the way we are wounding others. We can't say, well, that's just the way I am because of what's happened to me, or somehow excuse it because of what's happened to me. So anyway, great question. Thank you for that. And I just realized, Melody, we've got some friends from Odessa.
Yes, we do.
On. So hello, Vladimir. Hope you guys are doing well. We spent some time in the Ukraine. Had some good friends there. We were there for about 14 days, and man, what a wonderful time.
We missed you.
This is the beauty of technology. We have people all over the world. Usually I don't know if our Canadian friends are on or not.
They are right there.
They are. All right. So we got
Hello,
Canada
Heather.
and Ukraine at least. So we are officially international here in our Undone, our Q&A with Mel and Trey. So great question. Thank you for that. Let's go to...
One other thing I was just going to say is there's a great book by Leslie Vernick called The Emotionally Destructive Relationship and the Emotionally Destructive Marriage. And I would highly encourage just reading that so that you can see what are some behaviors that you might be, behaving out of with regard to your situation, and also some behaviors that he might be behaving out of with regard to your situation. And it could just be some good places to talk and identify and put a plan together.
Yeah, so all right, let's get these time stamps. So next question. I'm 3 years into my healing, still relapse at times. I know I need to be honest, but the last 4 times throughout the year, I tried to talk to my wife about a relapse. She said she didn't want to know about it. Well, I recently relapsed. She found out without me telling her anything. I think I was not in a place to feel her pain or own what I did. I wanted to get out of the house to get fresh air and walk, and she was pissed that I would even ask her to join after what I did. I'm struggling with shame. How do I juggle not walking in shame and feeling free to talk to her after a relapse and allowing her space? It's a tough situation, and she sits in a room all day on YouTube ignoring me and the kids. I no longer hate her for that, but feel much empathy. I have a connection group, but I'm afraid her not having one is in a lot of ways hurting the process. At the same time, I've learned to focus on me and not her. Now, you want to start with that one, or you want me to?
Why don't you jump in there?
Yeah, so this is what I'm going to name this episode. How do I talk to my wife about slips and relapses without falling into shame?
Yeah,
that's a common piece of recovery, because just like we said with the last question, shame is a big piece of this. Actually, it's the fuel. I've often heard it described as the fuel that drives addiction, that fuels addiction. And so if we don't deal with shame, then everything else we're doing is kind of rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. Shame has got to be dealt with. And so what you're basically saying is, historically, I've been ashamed of what I've done. I'm getting help. I'm getting healthier. And so I'm learning to stand in my own identity. Again, shame says we are a mistake. Guilt says I made a mistake. So to be able to separate our brokenness from who we are. If you're in Christ, you're a beloved son. So that is the truth of your identity. And so resting as a son who's also at the same time broken. It's a both and, not an either or. We're broken and we also are the beloved. And so to be able to stand in our identity, and in this case, you've had a slip, you've had a relapse. You called it a relapse. Don't know exactly the extent of that, but there's shame that comes back in because of that activity. And so, and naturally, as you're being honest, hey, she said she didn't want to know. This time she found out before I told her, but yet she said she didn't want to know. So maybe you can justify, well, I didn't tell her because you told me not to, all of that, but still there's shame. And so the question, how do you come toward your spouse in your true identity when you're basically talking about stuff that you'd rather not talk about? And it gets down to doing that deeper work of knowing who you are and being able to separate who you are from what you've done. And however she reacts in that as well. Now,
Well, part of this is, definitely losing the shame, and the way you're going to lose the shame is more and more identity work, because it is going to be very difficult for you to come to her when you have relapsed and not be reactive, but actually sit in her pain with her, because you've made some decisions that are impacting her. So then to walk away and walk outside the house could feel like, not only have I done this to hurt her, I'm now abandoning her. That may be the interpretation that she's getting.
But he did. And it sounds like he asked her to go with her.
Yeah. Again, I know these are some semantics, but I do think that the more identity, the work that you do, the more that you can lose a shame. And then my hope too is, as you're continuing to steward your relapses and really understand these experiences and hopefully get behind why you're relapsing, and definitely slips and relapses look different. A relapse can be more problematic than, say, a slip, and I'll let Trey talk a little bit about that. But, getting behind the behavior and really getting curious as to what led to that. Is it financial stress? Is it, triggers? Are you needing to find significance and you're going to places that you don't need to go instead of maybe your community group and things like that? The other piece, I heard you said you have a connection group, but she doesn't seem to have one. I definitely would encourage her to reach out to me at melody@undoneredone.com. I think just having somebody that can listen to her story and validate her. We have a weekly Monday night call group that she could be a part of that's virtual, that are basically for people all over the world that connect. And so she may just need that place to connect. And it's not you trying to fix her. Maybe you say that on the front end. I'm not trying to fix you or anything like that. But there are some women who meet, and Melody would love to hear your story. And maybe that would be an opportunity for her to, take a deep breath and calm down a little bit and be seen
Betrayal,
and heard by you.
Yeah, Melody's Life Beyond Betrayal. She may not be quite ready to send an email, but she might be willing to go to lifebeyondbetrayal.com. There's some free videos where she can begin to hear from Melody. And then there's also a community there as well, and also 3 courses that Melody has done around betrayal trauma. And so that gives her the convenience of her home. Maybe even as she's watching YouTube, that she can be watching those videos. That maybe. And I hear you saying at the very end, and it's absolutely true. You can't control her path. You hope that she does find a healthy path for herself. She's obviously in pain. Hopefully, she will step in the right direction in her pain and not go further down the rabbit hole. But again, that's something you can't control.
Yeah, one other thing I was going to mention, I noticed that you said that you had a connection group, but my hope would be that you're working with a therapist too, because if you are continuing to relapse, there might be a deeper dive into some of your own personal trauma and things like that you want to unpack with a therapist. Because again, as we continue this path of walking recovery and stepping into our identity and really understanding, who we are. Hopefully more and more sobriety will be there, and you can even, Trey talks about repenting at the belief level. Maybe you can even begin to unpack, okay, I'm feeling abandoned, or I'm feeling like I'm an orphan, and really begin to repent at that belief level before it even gets to the behavior level. And Trey, you may want to talk about that for people that have never heard that before, but just that would really be meaningful to your wife, for you to actually go to her and say, man, something happened to my car today and I feel like I got to figure it out, and feel less than a man because I don't know anything about a car. And so, I just want to repent of feeling like an orphan, and I've got to figure this out. And now you've not even gone to porn. And so again, I think just bringing those little places of conversations and intimacy, communications with your wife would be really helpful.
Yeah, so what she's talking about is one of the things we do at Embark, and like I said earlier in both the questions, shame is a big piece of this. One of the things we work on, one of the main things we work on with men at our Embark Intensive is not just talking about shame in general, but helping each man really go into the specifics of the wounds of their past, where the shame is coming from, the origins of that shame. And one of the other things that we talk about is the overall addictive system. Many times in recovery, we talk about the addictive cycle, fantasy, ritual, acting out, and then despair. And that's kind of like this little engine. But if we pull back, all of that starts with a belief system. We behave out of what we believe. And so we talk a lot about helping men find those faulty core beliefs. We all have, that shame filter sends a narrative. John Eldridge talks about there's the wound, but then there's the message of the arrows. What message have we taken away from our childhood trauma, big T and little t trauma? And so it's those beliefs that many are faulty that have become our truth, right? And if we do not challenge those, then all we're doing is sawing off branches, and we're not really getting to the roots of what's driving a lot of the unwanted behavior. So what Melody was getting to is what we try to help men do is go back to the belief. Let's find the faulty belief system. And then if we can catch the faulty beliefs before it even gets to behavior, then we're certainly helping our recovery process, even reaching out to community before the chemicals in our brain start firing and that addictive system, before the dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin starts ramping up. We can realize, wow, man, I am really thinking like an orphan. I'm really overwhelmed. I'm stressed financially. Things that are not even sexual in nature that you can begin to make those calls at that point. Hey, I'm forgetting who I am as a son. Will you please remind me? And so that's what Melody's mentioning, is repenting at the belief level when our belief is faulty. And one of the prayers of Scripture that I believe is one of the most honest prayers is, Lord, I believe, but help my unbelief. The centurion said to Jesus. And that's really the prayer we can bring to the Father. Lord, I believe, but help my unbelief, because certainly there's areas of unbelief that all of us deal with. So thanks for that question. So let's see, 2738. So this is a long question. I'm going to paraphrase. So basically, this is someone who has is in a relationship. Her husband has been 4 years and 7 months in an inappropriate relationship, but now that's supposedly just a friendship, and she just found out that he has signed a lease agreement, and now his name is attached to a $10,000 debt that he has co-signed, I guess, this lease with this other person. And her husband's not accountable. He acts like it's no big deal. He says there's no romantic feelings for her anymore. He's not honest with me until I have a dream. So anyway.
It sounds toxic.
Yeah, so here's the thing.
Married people don't make decisions like this.
Yeah, no, your last part of this is, am I nuts? And I think the only thing that would be nuts about this is trying to stay in relationship when the woman that your husband has an affair with is still in the picture.
That's right.
You can't move forward until that door is closed. Right. And if he's unwilling to close the door, then that really clearly makes the decision for you in the relationship.
Yeah, it's one thing when you betray when he betrays you. It's another thing when you betray yourself and you continue to walk in relationship with somebody who's living in full-blown sin. God does not desire us to walk in relationship with somebody who's justifying their sin and destructive things that are going to cost you right now and long term. And so where we'll really get crazy is when we betray ourselves.
Well, and you said you sought the Lord, and so far I've not been released from this marriage. And I would just speak to that. We spoke to this last week about the whole standing for our marriage. And I think the question that was asked last week is someone's spouse had actually gone on and married someone else, and the person was still standing for their marriage. And you're not in that situation, but I still sense this, God hasn't released me from the marriage, and that's fine, but don't torture yourself. Even if you want to have a separation, but you need to set some boundaries for yourself, even if you don't.
And really, the question is, why aren't you setting some boundaries for yourself? Because, if you're not valuing yourself and creating some of these, I can assure you your spouse is not going to value that. Obviously, he's continuing to get away with sin, and I don't know if he doesn't have other men in his life or even if he's at church, but again, God loved on sinners. Jesus surrounded himself with sinners. But, people that were living in full-blown sin, he spoke to that. That's why the rich young ruler walked away sad. And so I don't believe that God has called you to lose yourself.
She says that there was a separation. Now she's moved back in. And my question was, what signs did you see to move back in? I mean, so you move back in and you find out that he still wants to be friends with this woman. That would have been, I would have said, before you had moved back in, to make sure that was already
there was repentance,
taken care of.
Yeah.
And the fact that there wasn't, I think the answer is pretty clear. Again, at least, another season of separation, just so you can observe to see if he is willing to end the relationship. The unfortunate thing is now legally, it sounds like he's bound on this lease. I don't know what that, it doesn't sound like he's interested in even getting out of that at all. So at some level, he's continued to have some type of connection because of this lease. Not that would mean daily or even weekly connection just because his name's on it, but just the fact that he has done that is still choosing her. And it just sounds like he is not repentant. He's not in recovery. He doesn't see anything wrong with what he's done. And so for you waiting around hoping he's going to see what is wrong with it, it's going to really be detrimental to you. You know it's wrong. It's very clear. Anybody listening to this call, this is not healthy for you. And so I would say at least separate, set the boundaries, get your own recovery work working, and really find your footing. Do that work individually. Work on your own shame narrative. Discover with a therapist, what is it that makes me want to continue to go be with this person, someone who treats me this way.
Yeah. Why am I not valuing myself that I continue to be in a destructive relationship and be okay with it?
Yeah.
Because you are worth so much more, and God has a plan for your life, and that plan is not to sit by and watch somebody live in full-blown sin, because that's addiction takes everybody out. And so you are worth so much more, and you're worthy of love and belonging. And clearly, when we're walking in a relationship with somebody who's not sticking to the covenant that was made, sometimes we have to make really hard decisions. And to me, the one of the most loving decisions that you can make is say, I cannot continue this, and I just don't want to see you continue to betray yourself by believing that something that you can do or can't do will salvage this. So
yeah, and I would say again, just like the last question, Melody's course, if you're not already in that, lifebeyondbetrayal.com would be a good place, because you need a community of other strong women who are finding their footing that can kind of be your posse as you're finding your voice. And because it's hard to do, especially when you're alone in doing that, and Melody's community can certainly help speak truth, because you may get strong and then all of a sudden he knows the buttons to push and to make you feel a certain way, and then maybe you get sucked back in. But having people who can continue to preach truth to you would be really helpful. All right, let's go to we got a question from the from YouTube. Let's see, Ramika, I believe. Can you come back from years of cheating? He said it was only emotional. Well, since divorce, on paper, he has had a child with the last woman he cheated with on me during marriage. That hurt. Advice. So I guess we do know that it was more than just emotional, right? That's pretty clear, not to make light of that. And I know it is hurtful. And so you are divorced, and as far as can you come back from years of cheating? Now, I'm not sure if you're asking if that is, can you come back together, or can you come back in that you can heal from that? And certainly if the question is, can I heal from this? The answer is yes. Again, I'm going to put a plug for Melody's course, Life Beyond Betrayal, her group coaching that's going to be starting back up in the new year, 2021, would be a great place to be able to come back and to find your footing again, because betrayal does so much about your self-esteem. Evil already is hunting with, if you were only pretty enough, if you were only skinny enough, all the lies, if onlys, and it can be an onslaught. And so to be able to be in community where you can hear truth, you can hear the antithesis of that, which is the truth, that you are beloved, you're worthy of belonging, all those things. Melody, talk more about what she would get in your course.
Not only would she get that in the course, but the group coaching that will be starting in January you can find that at undoneredone.com/recover. And what we absolutely love about group coaching is not only do we have a curriculum that we go through that, because we'd actually be going through the Surviving Trauma Beyond Betrayal, and then I have Release, which goes through the grieving course. But that 10-week program is really an opportunity to keep you moving. When you do things by yourself, it can be very difficult. It's like trying to lose weight all by yourself. It really helps when we bring that group in, and we're sharing we're sharing stories, and we're sharing experiences, and this lady says something, and it was exactly what you needed to hear, but it's this beautiful process of really helping come together and walk through this process together. And so group coaching has been just phenomenal for ladies to really move a little bit quicker through the process, and also have ladies around them supporting. An inner circle, we only do 10 people at a time. And so those 10 people really get tight over the course of 10 weeks. And then after you've been through all 3 group coaching groups, we actually have a retreat, which is really, really exciting. We just finished our first Reclaim retreat this past weekend, and it was amazing. So check out undoneredone.com/recover and undoneredone.com/release. And you can go through those courses in a group setting with Heather and with myself, and it's really, really amazing.
Yes, I hope I got the right timestamp on that. I'll figure it out. But I think the other piece, if you're asking, can you come back as far as reconciliation, and that's a little bit more, there's a lot of factors that go into that. And I don't know that's what you were asking. I think it was more about, can you come back in that, can you heal from this? And certainly the answer is yes there. On the other side, I think your healing path is going to be the same. And really, if there's ever any reconciliation, certainly that's even more complicated because there's a child with this other woman. And but it really all boils down to the work that you see him doing, right? To marriages that are healthy are made up of individuals that are healthy. And so I think just being able to, so he wants to get back together.
So
okay.
my main question, and I know yours would be this too, Trey, is what has he done to get back together? Because now not only would he have to do years of some recovery to open the door for reconciliation, but you also have to think, not only am I going, if I step back into reconciliation, if there's been this long process of his personal recovery, working with a counselor, all the things, but now you're going to have a child to have to work out as well, and it's not your child. So there's lots and lots of things. Does he make excuses for what he's done? Or is he repentant and actually doing the work? Remember, remorse is sadness. I'm sad about what I've done, but it's also a lot of cheap talk. And actual repentance is however long it takes, I want to rebuild trust, and I want to continue to do the things, counseling, recovery groups, and things like that, whether you stay with me or not. And that's something that you'll want to see. Is he doing these things to get you back? Trey always says, if you're doing these things to get her back, this is going to be short-lived. If you're doing this long-term, then she's naturally going to be, looking at the possibility of reconciliation.
He needs to be doing the things he needs to do for him first and foremost. And so for you, we can do a lot for a short period of time.
That's right.
Right. And so if he thinks there's hope and he can maybe do the dance and look the part, short term, but I think you need to look long term.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. I mean, I don't know this situation here, but not uncommon situation where someone cheats, they go over here, and then that doesn't work out, and then they want to come back.
Because they can't be alone, right?
For a lot of men, and this was my story, it was really about not knowing how to be alone. And for me, it was those 6 years of divorce, especially the first 2.5, maybe 3 years, where God kept bringing me back to a place, Trey, am I enough? And for the large part of that first few years is I couldn't honestly answer that question. I didn't believe God was enough. I needed something outside of God because I didn't know who I was just by myself. And it was over time when I could finally answer that in the affirmative. Yes, Lord, you are enough. If I'm single the rest of my life, I'm going to be okay. And that's a really big part of that identity work we were talking about back to the first question is we've got to be okay in and of ourselves, just in our own skin first, because otherwise, if we're not at some base level in that relationship, we are selfishly demanding, even if it's subconsciously, that other person comes through for us and makes life work for us. And so we've got to do this individual work. And so if he's just, the relationship hasn't worked out with this other woman and it's complicated and now he doesn't know how to be alone and it's just easier to come back to you, it's back to what Melody was saying earlier with the third question, is respecting yourself enough that, hey, I am moving forward and getting healthy, and you've got some high standards, hopefully, for the type of man you're going to be in relationship with moving forward. And so if he meets the criteria that you're looking for in any man that you want to be in a relationship with, then maybe he can at least be considered. But I would encourage you to be looking for someone who's doing the same kind of individual work that you're willing to do to heal yourself. And again, if he makes that short list of guys who are doing those things, not because you ask them, but because you just see that that's the life that they're living, then that may be something to consider. But if it's just because it's easier to come back to you because he doesn't know how to be alone, then that's something altogether different. So, but great question. Thanks for answering that. So let's look at our final question, unless we have some others coming in. Melda, can you check Facebook and see if there are any others? So this one is, it's been about 3 years since my husband's affair. There's still issues with trust for me because he occasionally lies about various things, and there have been times that he's stolen merchandise by switching price tags in stores. When I talk about this as adding to making it difficult to trust, he becomes irritated and says I'm holding things against him and tells me that I should be over it by now and that I have a problem. It is difficult for me to trust him, and he doesn't seem to see how his behavior is affecting this. He takes medication for bipolar. We were in therapy for about 6 months after, and therapists recommended longer due to bipolar issues, but he did not continue. He was a pastor and now works with a nonprofit ministry. I'm also discouraged because he complains to our friends. I would prefer transparency. Because complains to our friends. I'm not sure if it's supposed to be he doesn't. I don't know what. I guess because complains to our friends. I would prefer transparency. Can you offer suggestions? Melody, you want to start with that one? Or not?
Why don't you start and I'll finish. I missed, I think, a sentence or two in that.
Yeah, so I want to validate why trust would still be an issue because I don't know, the whole stealing thing, it's almost like, it sounds to me, again, I'm reading a lot into this, but just a little bit you've put there, but it's almost like there's a high of can I get away with this is what that feels like, that rush of adrenaline maybe to get away with stealing things. But I also, even if that is the case, I could see how it does add to this big mess of, can I trust this guy? Not only did he have an affair, but he's stealing things. He's not in therapy, which that would be a concern, as we've said in some of these other answers, that we've got to do this deeper work to understand. I don't know if he's done enough work. I mean, 6 months is not enough to really get in touch with why the original affair. I'm not sure if it was right after the 3 years when it came out. But yeah, I would say, the suggestions would be, first of all, just kind of like we've been saying, is you get in therapy, you do the work, maybe get into Melody's course if you haven't already at lifebeyondbetrayal.com, and you begin to heal, because the healthier you get, you're going to put boundaries in place, maybe boundaries that you didn't even know you needed to have in place. And it could be that those boundaries, not that you're doing it because of him or for him, but you're doing it for yourself. But a byproduct of that might mean that he has to jumpstart his own recovery. And he realizes that, hey, because again, if you're not setting boundaries and you're just kind of letting him, just kind of play it safe and do as little as maybe 6 months and that's it, then, that is, it's not really much motivation for him.
Yeah, if there's not any consequences, then he's probably more than likely going to continue doing this. And, until a wise counselor once said, until the pain is great enough, the behavior never changes. And what can be most hurtful after betrayal and really through betrayal is not the behavior, but the ongoing deception. And rebuilding trust, there has to be total honesty. And you can't have trust if there's lies and gaslighting and deflection and all that. You're going to continue to really not trust him. And it's very natural to not trust him since he's lying about this. So I don't know if there are some places where you can hold him accountable, or have him, have some layers of accountability in there with the nonprofit ministry or whatever. But like Trey said, your path is your path. And the healthier and stronger that you get, the more you can be boundaried up and say, that's not okay that you did that. But yeah, his lying and stealing is going to be problematic and continue to create distance in the relationship instead of intimacy and closeness.
All right, so we've got a question there, and then one, I know I just got notified that there's one on Facebook.
Okay.
So if you can find that one. I'm going to answer this question from YouTube. It goes back to the standing question. So should we stand as written in Corinthians or move on? And I know this is controversial, so I know there's a whole community of people standing for their marriage. We spoke about this last week, so I would encourage you maybe to go back to last week's live Q&A session as well. But here's the thing. If, obviously God hates divorce. We know that. Obviously, though, there is biblical grounds for divorce. And so in the case of last week, where someone was standing for their marriage after their spouse had already married someone else and was currently married to someone else, as we said last week, I just don't feel like it's God's best just to say, well, they moved on and they're with somebody else, but I just need to stand for, in case that doesn't work out, and in case that leads to divorce, and in case reconciliation for us is possible.
Yeah, God has more for you than that.
Yes.
Sure.
And so standing for your marriage, now that may be whatever place you're in, If your spouse is not remarried, it may be that you still, maybe it's separation right now. You're standing for your marriage, but maybe standing for your marriage is getting healthy as possible for you first and foremost. And the healthier you get, the more you're going to understand, what am I expecting for my spouse? If I'm going to be in relationship with them, if I'm going to have a marriage with them, that it's going to be on these new terms, maybe terms you didn't even know until you got healthier yourself, because we don't know what we don't know. And so that would be my my quick, again, I know there's a lot out there about the standing for your marriage. That's just our take. I think a lot of times because we have people find us that are kind of in that camp because we did reconcile after 6 years of divorce, but it wasn't because one of us were taking a path of standing for our marriage. It was both of us were walking a path, getting healthier individually, and that the byproduct of that, it wasn't a guaranteed byproduct, but in our case, it just happened to be we reconciled because we saw that there was something new there. It wasn't a starting over in that. So did you find the Facebook question?
I found this question.
No, there's a Facebook question. Then we can go to that one.
Okay. I don't see one.
All right, let's see.
That's all that's on there.
All right, maybe you need to refresh. All right, so Paul, let's see, if you can email me that question real quick, because for some reason our Facebook is not refreshing. So let's go to the email question that just came in.
Okay, I can read it. I just completed the Safe and Unsafe Person lesson and Melody Surviving Trauma Beyond Betrayal course, and I'm wondering how you relate that to your husband and who has betrayed you. I find that my husband now, after almost 5 months in recovery, is becoming more of a safe person, but doesn't check all the boxes quite yet. D-Day was 4 months ago. That leaves me feeling close at times, wanting to share my heart with him, but other times needing to be brief or have walls up. We are currently separated, but spending more time together and talking. How does this also relate to our physical affections? Do you think sexual intimacy or even just foreplay should only be done once he checks in all the boxes? Or do you think in some ways it can help bring us closer? My emotions are up and down on this whole topic, and I really would just love any advice you have on it. So safe people is going to be very, very important for you. And my hope would be that you've got safe people outside of your marriage as well, people that you can process with, people that you can go to help, help ask the hard questions that sometimes we don't like to answer, not just allowing us to come and throw up on them, but really, safe people or people that are going to actually, call you to more and not let you get away with, throwing up all the time, or sometimes the struggling spouse can act like the victim, and so can really ask you harder questions like, how is your wife experiencing you? What kind of sobriety are you in? Those types of things. And that will really help create some safety for both of you. So one of the things for me with regard to Trey was already doing a lot of the things. And it was clear to me that he was serious about his recovery. And, if those things stop happening, he quits going to group and he's, exuding some of the behavior of an addict, then that's going to be problematic for us, and we're going to have those conversations. The other part of that is you're not necessarily checking off the boxes. He's going to recovery, he's checked in, he's doing all that before you step in from a physical intimacy standpoint, because vulnerability is I'm choosing to see and observe what he is doing, and I'm choosing to step in, not necessarily before we check in or not check in. So it's really going to be important. Obviously, again, rebuilding trust is observing actions over time. It's not listening to a bunch of words. But as you are watching him step into his recovery and his sobriety, you can say hard things to him. You can step into vulnerability, and you're not getting some of the old behavior. Then I would think those are things that you can trust. And then I think sometimes just going to him and saying, hey, I'm scared about this, or I'm concerned about this, and you don't get the gaslighting or the manipulating or the deflection. You actually hear him sit in that with you. Those are going to be rebuilding trust opportunities as well. So do I think sexual intimacy should only be done? Yeah, I think I answered that. Or do you think in some ways it can help bring us closer? I do think when you're stepping into places sexually, sexual intimacy and vulnerability. And that is, I don't have a guarantee that I'm not going to get hurt again, but I would choose this relationship. I choose to step into this regardless. You're going to find the benefits of that. Many women feel like, okay, I can't step in until this, and this are happening. And I'm a proponent of vulnerability as risk. And risk is I could get hurt here, but I'm going to continue to step in. And I think that's going to be really important. Also, just listening to yourself. Yes, your emotions are going to be all over the place, but remember, we're not, emotions are like a coach. They provide information. It's not motivation. So that's for the betrayer, and the betrayed spouse. Like sometimes, feelings and where we are feelings is only a very, very short surface in the overall depth of where we want to go, related to emotional resiliency and intimacy. So hopefully that answers your question.
All right. I found the Facebook question, and let's see. Give me a timestamp. I went to Facebook.
Oh, well, there you go. So the one that we're on here, the live here.
I don't know why it's not coming up there.
Yeah, it's not refreshing, I guess.
All right. So the question is, have you ever heard of a correlation between ADHD and sex addiction? And I have heard of that. I know that is a common connection. I think just ADHD and addiction in general, not just sex addiction.
Impulse control, ADHD, you have trouble with impulse control. Yeah,
so certainly there's a correlation there. I'm not an expert. I know there's a lot of great articles out there probably. I would encourage maybe some by Patrick Carnes on that topic, or maybe some things that CSAT has written. And so certainly if someone is diagnosed with ADHD and they have a sex addiction, I think definitely having a therapist involved, and that's important anyway. But even more so here, just to kind of understand, as Melody said, that impulse control, but how they may be correlated, very specifically, that we need to see maybe how triggers are working, or how we put boundaries in place, or how do we put a healthy plan together if we're trying to avoid certain behaviors. So yes,
it's definitely not going to cure your sex addiction, but maybe seeing a psychologist or a psychiatrist to help you understand if you do have ADHD, would be helpful, would be definitely a tool in your toolbox.
Well, and I think also
doesn't help with the actual sex addiction.
Yeah, but medicine for ADHD can certainly help the focus and everything that's needed for walking a path of sobriety.
Absolutely.
Because if somebody's trying to do sex addiction recovery and they don't have the ADHD, under control, and it's kind of all over the place, then I could see it would probably be hard to really get some traction in that.
Yes.
And so anyway, that's a great question. Thanks for that. Well, I think that is all that we have, and we have gone a little bit longer than normal. We had about 10 minutes of an intro there. Thanks for giving us the feedback, guys. We're going to get all the kinks worked out of some of these things, and get hopefully where we can do what's supposed to be happening is all of our Q&A questions, all the comments from both YouTube and Facebook are coming into the same place, and I can even bring them into the feed. It's not working the way it's supposed to. There's a glitch, I think, in the update on the software, but do forgive us for having to go back and forth, but hopefully it wasn't that much of a deterrent, and hopefully we did get to all of the questions. So this will be going up. If you didn't see this live, you may be watching this on a replay. We've talked about Melody's lifebeyondbetrayal.com. Like I mentioned earlier, I'll say again, our undoneredone.com/ask. There's a quick form. Put your email address in there, and that'll notify you each and every week when we are going live. It's going to be 2 o'clock. Go ahead and put it on your calendar. Tell some friends about this as well. Maybe some friends who are going through this dark chapter in their marriage. Maybe they've never thought they'd be here, but just need some perspective, just need some folks who've been down that road and can offer a lifeline. That's what we're here to do at Undone Redone. And then final plug for our podcast. We've not done one this week, but we've got 200 and approaching 250 episodes out there, and talking about these and many other topics. But that's a free resource. Encourage you to subscribe to that, and tell your family and friends about it as well. Hope everyone has a great Thanksgiving holiday for those of you here who are in the U.S., and hope everything going well for our friends in Odessa and in Canada, or wherever you're tuning in. Thanks, and God bless. Love you guys.